Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Well, today we're going to run through several of these emotions, but for the most part, this is something that makes me very, very happy, and it is Conan, Conan the Barbarian, Robert E. Howard's Conan. Everything Conan here today at the Fantasy Tavern on Miss Martin Muses. We are joined once again with our panel all the way from I'm not sure where, Lady Gravemaster. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing just dandy. How about yourself?
Oh, I am awake. I think this is the earliest I've been in when I'm not flying in quite a while, that I've got myself some coffee, and I was so pumped when I woke up that when I realized, oh my gosh, we're finally getting to talk about Conan. So I woke up very excited. So I'm really, really pumped. And
Nice.
all the way from the future, from the north, it is the one, the only Steve Kenobi.
Hello.
Hey, how's the future?
Well, it's 1 p.m. in Norway, so it's chilly, but the snow is going away fast. That's good.
Yay. Okay, well, and the rest of the planet, we're all still here. That's good. If it's snowing, that means
No, half of the planet just split. It fell off. It's drifting towards Saturn, I believe.
Oh,
but
well,
I don't care. It was full of weird people anyway. So.
Well, you heard it here first at Miss Martin Muses. We always like to have breaking news. We like to have breaking news. Well, let's say hi to our chat. Hello. That's not. I'm not going to say hello to myself. We are going to say hello to Cybot. Hello, everyone. He says, been looking forward to this. I do love Conan stories. Yay! Zakrot 315. Hello, thank you for being here. Lady T is going to be listening. Hello, lady. Oh, we have Mr. Brown Alliance. Is it Saturday? Well, no, it's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. So, no, you didn't miss out anything. We're not talking Silmarillion. We are talking the one in the Conan. But yes, it is great to see you here. Great to see you here. Everyone's saying hi. Hello, Shane Nolan, also from the future, but he's an hour behind. So maybe the split of the Earth towards Saturn happened in between. Everyone's saying hello. Well, it's great to see you. And the reason why I wanted to emphasize a little bit of Robert E. Howard's Conan is because, rightly so, we think of Conan the Barbarian, we think of the movie, and nothing against the movie, but the stories, the lore, and all that written by Robert E. Howard in his Pulp Fiction is what we are focusing on. And of course, we wouldn't have Conan the Barbarian, and all of that. I maintain that if Robert E. Howard had lived, he would probably be a gazillionaire, and so would his beneficiaries. But tragically, he took his own life at the age of 30. So we might mention very briefly about this, but he was able to write so prolifically in basically 8 years of writing is his professional career. Well, I want to throw the page to Steve Kenobi first. Could you perhaps give us just a little bit of an intro to Robert E. Howard's Conan? Like, who is Conan? What is he? How was it conceived?
Well, Conan is a Cimmerian, which is Cimmeria is a country in the north of the world, which is our world way back, or a version of it, kind of like how Tolkien did Middle Earth. It was an alternative mythology and stuff to our world, right? Or rather to England. So it's basically our world after the oceans did away with Atlantis. So it's a fictional version of ancient Earth. And it's full blown barbarian, stories. Completely focused on adventure rather than a lot of people think it's all about violence and all that. It isn't. There's violence in it, but it's more or less adventure stories. And I would say it's very I guess the stories are kind of Indiana Jones ish
Mhm.
because you get one story, with one adventure. Conan or Indiana Jones has adventure fall in their laps, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, once the story ends, it ends. You can pick up another one later on, and you'll get a complete story, which
Mhm.
is I think there's a lot to be said for that because not everything needs to be a trilogy or 15 books.
Yep.
Sometimes a standalone book is what you need.
Exactly, and they're not very long if you do buy the paperback versions, which were compiled from where they were published in Weird Tales. You're looking at maybe a read of 150 pages, and so you're in for an adventure and some good times. Yeah, Mr. Brown Alliance says that looks like Pangea, and Cybot says many of the cultures it probably map onto real cultures that came later. Yes, and you can even see because this was the world before uh, the earthquakes in part of his mythos that he created, Howard. There was thousands of years of all these cataclysmic disasters, and that's what
Mm-hmm.
happened to our world.
Yeah, basically from Stygia and down, I guess, became Africa. It
Hmm.
just slid away.
Yeah, you can
Yep.
see it there.
Yeah. And I think the Pictish wilderness slid off and became England
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
and
eventually.
the northern, and there's even like the Scandinavian kind of cultures and the climates. Yep.
Yeah, and he's lifting stuff from all kinds of different time periods, really,
Hmm.
because you basically have a Roman Empire in the Aquilonia uh, area and the
Hmm.
Media, I suppose. Stygia is basically ancient Egypt.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Alrighty. Well, Lady Gravemaster, what do you know of Conan? How did you first get into it, and what can you tell us?
So being an 80s baby and a 90s kid, um, I got into it the same way many of us did, the movie.
Hmm.
um, but what I was really so I watched the movie and I was like, wow, he's like Rocky meets Rambo meets Terminator. I was like,
Hmm.
this is so cool. I was like, but then they just stuck him in the past, and I was like, he's so big, like assertive and confident. And I picked up on all of those things as a kid. I was like, this is a man who knows what he wants. This is a man who is going to do what he has to do.
Hmm.
So when I was a little bit older, I had a friend um, who was like, yeah, they have Conan books. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, cool. So I read a few of them when I was like 11. And I was like, man, this is so good. But then, of course, like Harry Potter came out and I found Lord of the Rings. And so Conan sort of went on the back burner a little bit. But I would still watch the movie, and I watched Red Sonja as well, which
Hmm.
I was really confused as a kid because I thought it was Conan, and he was just hiding his real identity. Because, like, even in the movie, she's like, why didn't you tell me who you were? So I assumed that he was simply hiding the fact that he was Conan. Um, it
Uh,
it took a minute for me to
he,
realize.
he he was supposed to be,
Yes,
but they
that's what I
weren't allowed
heard.
to use the name, so they renamed him Calidor.
Calidor, yeah. So I was like, oh, so we're just supposed to know that he's Conan, and apparently you were, but not in the way that I thought.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Conan movies though
Uh-huh.
do not stick well with the lore
No,
whatsoever. But
yeah,
the first one is still awesome as a
yep.
movie. It's a fantastic movie, but it does not stick well with the lore. Actually, the one with Momoa sticks closer to the lore.
Hmm. And Momoa
I,
looks a little more like him in the sense that Conan was actually a dark-haired guy, and that was one of his distinctive features.
mm-hmm.
But I can certainly see why they would cast Arnold Schwarzenegger because besides the hair, he is.
That had
It's
to do with
Arnold.
the Frank Frazetta art.
Mm.
because
Oh.
that's how people saw Conan. It was
Okay.
through that art.
Didn't know that. Well,
Uh,
I just remember watching Red Sonja, and Bridget Nielsen was like who I wanted to be when I grew up. I was like, she's
You
awesome. She's tall. She's a redhead.
terrible actress.
Shush.
well, it doesn't. It's not her acting why people go to her.
She was in cold. She banged both Schwarzenegger and Stallone actually.
Hey, you know what? I mean, why not? It was the 80s. I'm sure she thought she was going to be the female version of Schwarzenegger.
Mhm.
Yeah, James Earl Jones described. He had a lot to say about Conan in interviews about the movie, and I think he had done a lot of research too, because he said, unlike a lot of other heroes in fantasy stories and the like, Conan is more of a force of nature
Hmm.
rather than
Ooh.
your run of the mill warrior, because he kind of is, because he does not stop, and his main strength is his insane willpower.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, and it just kills me how a lot of these actors, especially the older actors, they really know their stuff. It wasn't just a gig to them.
That's called being problematic now, Miss Martin.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's problematic. Yeah, I think right now off the top of my head, the only modern actor that I think is as prolific in all of this, where he truly is a nerd in this sense, is Henry Cavill. I can't think of any other
Oh, I thought you were going to say
younger
Anthony
actor.
Hopkins.
Oh, a younger actor.
Oh, I was going to say, you're like,
Yeah,
because you're like,
yeah.
oh, current actor. And I thought you were going to say Anthony Hopkins.
My fault.
There's a
My
man.
fault. I did make it clear. I was thinking
Sorry. Okay,
that they're creating.
I'm tracking with you. I don't know. Tom
Anthony.
Holland he seems very excited about all of the stuff. But he also seems really young and impressionable. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Saibot says a good thing about one of the characteristics of Conan. Yes, Conan has a goal and he goes for it through brawn and cunning and willpower.
Yeah,
Yes.
and if he
cunning.
makes a promise, he keeps it,
Hmm.
no matter what. So there's an honor thing going on. It's very easy to get I guess a wrong perceptive of what Conan is, if all you have to go on is the movie,
Hmm.
because he is kind of different in the movie
Hmm.
than from the original work.
Well,
But the movies did it well too. But there's a lot more to Conan than just a big brute with a sword, right?
yeah, there's a lot of people just by virtue of his name, Barbarian, that they assume that means he's unintelligent.
Yeah,
And
he's not unintelligent, but he's
no,
not a genius either, because he does screw up quite a bit.
yes, but
So
so like the
yeah,
thing is, I think the reason that he and I could be very wrong, but for me anyway, when I looked at it, um because he is so capable and he is so brutal and there's essentially no one that can match his skills with a sword, um he can take bigger risks and be less tactical than other people. You know what I mean? Because he has that overwhelming strength physically and willpower, it's not that he can't it's not that he isn't intelligent, it's just that he has to rely less on um cunning or being deceptive than somebody else who is going to be weaker than him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
yeah, and Conan has that thing. If he dies in battle, he gets to die well, which will
Yes.
make Crumb happy.
Mm.
So even if he loses, he's still
He
thinks he's
wins.
gonna win somehow.
Yep.
By Crumb.
Yeah.
Let me see. I'm
Crumb
trying to
though.
come up with a good
Crumb is
picture.
an awesome name for a god.
Yeah.
Seriously. Let's
And, and just to looking at the definition of pulp fiction, which was what he was writing in the genre, if you will. It's racy action-based stories, and they were published in cheaply printed magazines around 1900 1950. And they were racy, especially for the age that in
Yeah.
which they were. It's
There's no
like,
there's no descriptions of sex or anything, but there's definitely a description of skin.
yes, lots of heaving bosoms. And I was reading Red Nails last night for the first time, and even Conan, the way he would describe his rippling muscles and it's all these things, and I'm like, well done, well done. And when the chick died, I won't say which chick, she was stabbed through the back, and so that the point of the spears or the knife or whatever was poking out between her naked, bosoms. And
Bosoms.
you're just like, whoa, dude.
So Stig's like, hey, Lady G, I know you don't like smut, but here, read this. And then I picked up a Robert Jordan Conan that he recommended to me, and it wasn't as smutty as some other, like not even close. But there is still flesh in there, but it's the way it's written is also not super ridiculously gratuitous and stupid.
No,
Like-
it's just yeah. Which one was it you read? Was it Conan the Magnificent?
Isn't that the one that you told me to read?
Yeah, the
Just
one
saying.
with the dragon-ish thing.
Yep, because I was gonna read Conan the Destroyer, and then you're like, don't read that one.
Yeah, it's just word for word the second movie.
Yeah, so you were
But
like, here,
Conan,
read this
that's where the huntress lady just steps out of the tent naked and starts
Yep.
shooting people with bow and arrow.
bow and arrow. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, she that one had two female characters, I think. And even though
Yes.
he had to save them at some point, they weren't helpless.
No, but they also weren't witches with bees who, like, I talked about this on Saturday. Like, I'm about to swear, and I apologize, Miss Martin, because I know,
Yep.
but
I gave up a long time ago. I'm a barbarian now too.
Yeah,
so-
Rennie's been on a lot.
but I just oh gosh, I just being a bitch is not a replacement for a personality. Being condescending to a man who is stronger than you, taller than you, faster than you, and 9.9 times out of 10 more brutal than you, having to rely on him to kill, I don't know, a giant rock monster or a dragon type. I don't know if it was a dragon or a riven.
Yeah, it was kind of like a. It didn't have wings.
Yeah, it didn't have wings. It was more like a snake that could walk, honestly. Maybe a giant lizard. I have no idea. Anyway, the being like, okay, you go kill that thing. That's not weak. That's literally being tactical. Big strong man who can kill pretty much anything. Giant monster that will eat me in one bite. It's all you, Conan. Go ahead. I'll throw rocks at it.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I do not understand. Not even a man is like, if you read Conan, he isn't everything. Like he can't. There's certain things that Conan is not particularly good at. Being suave is one of, like, I mean, he just kind of does what he wants to do, but that's not the same thing as being like suave or I would even say compassion. Like, Conan's not exactly known for his compassion. Again, he's a barbarian. But like I'm so confused by this obsession to have women be the best at everything. Like, they have to be the smartest, they have to be the fastest, they have to be the strongest, they have to be the most skilled with a blade, even if it doesn't make any sense for the time period that your setting is in. And I don't understand it, because when we had male leads, and we'll go, when it was, the damsel in distress, even though none of the women in, well, okay, there's a couple in some Conan books, but in Conan the Magnificent, like, there's no I wouldn't say that either of them are damsels in distress. Really,
No, they're in distress sometimes, but it
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes.
If you get kidnapped by a big cult that wants to sacrifice you, then naturally you can't kill all the 500 members and escape yourself.
Yeah. I mean, but like, there's it was natural the way that they fell into trouble, and it was by virtue of them attempting to, slay an enemy or do something good or even help Conan. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like it made sense, and there was balance. There, Conan's not a sorcerer, he's a barbarian. So there's a couple of books where he teams up with a witch because he knows that he needs some kind of magic to get
Yeah.
in and do what he needs to do. So you had
Yeah.
this thing called balance back in the day. Now it's like dude is just there for the sake of being there. Because she
Yeah,
can.
and if you
Go ahead.
if you read Red Nails, which is one of the first ones, he's teaming up with Valeria, whom they kind of ripped off and put in the movie. So it's a different character from the story, and yeah, he's teaming up with her, and she's definitely competent,
Yeah.
because she's a warrior too. She's not as strong as Conan, but she's sure as heck is skilled with a sword.
Yeah. Oh, Cybot also says something very good. The Howard stories describe sexy people, and usually that is it. Yeah, and without
Actually, yes.
But it's not like sex, even though sex is a part of it because it was part of the genre. And actually, Red Nails was the last one that Robert E. Howard wrote. It was his.
Oh, I thought it was one of the first. My
no, and the only reason why I wanted to correct you on that is because this was actually also posted. This was posthumously done. It was the last one he wrote, and it was published a few months after he took his own life very tragically.
That one was almost turned into animated movie about a decade ago. Mark Hamill was voicing the villain, and Ron Perlman was voicing Conan. But it ended up in development hell.
Yeah.
So there's only a few stills of it.
Yeah. Now I brought this up.
It looked good though.
Yeah. Maybe, who knows? Maybe one day. But this is Savage Sword of Conan. These are the comics, I guess, if you want to get the best comics of Conan. These are amazing. And here's some of the covers. And this one's particularly on the left, I think, shows really well the way that Howard described Conan, that the way his unique look and all that. And also the art in these are positively amazing. They are black and white and very detailed stories, almost like you feel like you're reading a paperback, but it's only a comic. But they also have 2 or 3 in each one, and they're longer and they're self-contained. So
and Red Sonja in her iconic look is also on the cover. She was not created by Robert E. Howard. She was created by Roy Thomas for the comics, but Robert E. Howard does have a Red Sonja character in one of his short stories, but it's set in the 1920s United States, and she's kind of like a gangster thing. So they just took the name, right, and added and created a Red Sonja for the comics.
Yep.
But she is kind of a Mary Sue, though. She gets her family gets killed, and she gets raped, and she walks out into the night, right, and a goddess speaks to her, and she gets powers. She's basically going to be invincible with a sword, kind of. And she'll only be that way if she doesn't sleep with anyone. However, she's allowed to sleep with someone if the person can beat her at sword. Well, so a little bit of a Mary Sue, but she's also a great character. She has a lot of development.
I don't know that she would technically qualify. Like, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't technically qualify her as a Mary Sue because a goddess gave her powers. She didn't just like manifest destiny them herself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's still just it gets handed to her, and she also has that thing where everyone wants to sleep with her, just because she is who she is.
Yeah. But at least
I
she
mean,
did.
she's hot. So
I was about to say, at least she's hot.
She's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like today
And
where like
she's
the thing
also
about-
ground zero for the chainmail bikini.
Hey, I'm here for it.
Yeah.
My husband's also there for it. He enjoys a chainmail bikini. Anyway,
Yeah.
but no, I think like one of the big issues with today's Mary Sue's, they all look alike. They're all just like blank, pale.
They're templates.
For
It's
self-inserts.
it's sickening. Like, that's not why I go see a film. Like, I go to James Bond because he looks good in a tuxedo. He has beautiful cars. He has awesome gadgets, gorgeous locations, and the women are really hot. And I'm like, man, I'd love to wear that dress or wear those heels or, go play spy with James Bond. That sounds like fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Like-
Conan has a little bit in common with James Bond because the Bond girls.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of Conan girls too that are
True.
in there for one story, right?
Yep.
You have a couple that kind of show up now and again.
Mhm.
You have Valeria and Bellet, who was kind of his wife, and that's actually the one who came back after death to save him, like you see in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It was not Valeria; it was Bellet, who was a pirate queen.
Mm.
And she was definitely competent. She had a bit of a temper though,
Yeah.
but yeah, she was, and she had a tendency towards greed sometimes.
Yeah. Cybot had he's been giving some good recommendations of various stories, and he says, I would also recommend Queen of the Black Coast if you want to see Conan's more reflective philosophical side to counter the impression that he's just dumb
The
muscle.
Queen of the Black Coast, I do believe, is the Bellet story, and correct me if I'm wrong, Cybot. I might be mixing it up with something else, because there's a lot of queens and a lot of coasts and rivers and the story names, right?
Yeah. It's going to say, Ancient One says, have Conan the Barbarian and James Bond fused together in the style of Dragon Ball Z just to see what happens afterwards. What have I done? And yeah, Philip Blair says Arnold was a male sex symbol, just like Sean Connery. Yes.
Back
and that's
when guys weren't supposed to look like skinny short people with glasses.
Yeah. Sabah says, yeah, half his stories have the word black in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I want to bring up that not only did he wrote within the Pulp Fiction, but what Conan the Barbarian, or rather the works that Robert E. Howard did through him, eventually spawned an entire new genre of fantasy. And there's not a lot of writers that you can say actually almost single-handedly created a genre. And that is what Robert E. Howard did, because they didn't really have a word for what he was doing or what he had accomplished. And after his passing, after the passing of time, when people were seeing the contributions that he made, and they then called it Sword and Sorcery. So when you hear Sword and Sorcery, you can thank Robert E. Howard and the work that he did.
Yeah, and he didn't just do Conan. He also did Solomon Kane and King Cole. Mm-hmm. King Cole takes place in the same world as Conan, just thousands of years before, because he was the king of Atlantis, which is also kind of cool. But it's not. He was never my favorite though. But Solomon Kane is definitely cool.
Yeah, Cybot says Sword and Sorcery, baby. Yeah, exactly. I'm not familiar with Solomon Kane, though I do have the complete works of Solomon Kane. I did get in a hardback because Steve makes me spend money. In a good...
Oh, it was a hardback?
Oh, yeah, you didn't realize that was a hardback?
No, I actually ordered it myself. I thought it was a paperback.
Oh, no. Oh, wait. Don't quote me on that. Maybe it looked like a hardback because it was really big and it was black. Maybe it was the other one that was hardback.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Don't quote me on it, but it was big and it was beautiful. And this is just what amazes me when you look at how much this man wrote. Because again, he only did Conan the Barbarian and the whole Hyborian Age and all of that world building in the last 4 years of his life. He started thinking about it around 1932, and it immediately became very popular. And he just was pumping these bad boys out. But that's not even considering Solomon Kane, not even considering that other dude you were talking about. And he also had a character like an 11th century Irish, like Celtic Viking character, and he was starting to write westerns toward the end of his life.
Yeah,
I
and
think.
he wrote another book about I think it's called The Sword Woman or something.
Mhm.
Female lead, even back in the 1930s.
I don't know what you're talking about. Female leads didn't exist until 2016.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
certainly weren't written by men because men didn't care about women.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of fantasy writers tends to praise Robert E. Howard. Because you see a lot of the big names have they have blurbs on the Robert E. Howard books saying how big of an inspiration he was and all that, but he seems to be overlooked by the the mainstream stuff. If you see like a list of top 10 fantasy writers and stuff like that, Robert E. Howard is almost never on them.
Should be.
But the writers themselves could not praise him enough.
Well, and as I said, these were little serials. Well, they were written as serials. And then they were later put together in these little paperbacks. You can pick up a paperback, and even in those short amount of just word-wise, these stories, gosh, they were well plotted. They were well paced. You can't put it down. Like just last night, I had started Red Nails over the weekend, and then last night I just finished it. It's fun, and see, that's the other thing. There's not a lot of fantasy, of course, nowadays, where you can just pick it up and maybe read it in one evening and just be taken away to a different world. And that's what he did, and it's wild. One thing I love about Conan's stories is the dude always has great one-liners. So do the chicks. They just can't kill somebody. They have to kill someone while going, well, so here you go. Or I don't know. It's just, they have to have a line as they kill. And I love it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like those dry Bond one-liners when he kills a villain, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit like that. So he did it before Ian Fleming,
Yep. Now, I must admit, I am a very, very early in my knowledge of all of this. I did not know anything really about Robert E. Howard or the original Conan stories until we started role playing. We played D20 with Stieg as a DM, and that
D20 Conan. That book is selling for a lot of money on eBay. I didn't know I was sitting on a little fortune.
Yeah, I think you're looking at $300. I think that's what it averages. The second edition, by the way. Holy moly!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that was you. I thought that was your bird.
It's on the floor next to me.
Yeah, there. No.
Hey, Ryan.
I thought that was your bird. I'm so.
Oh no, that was me going. God dang.
Yeah, as like Stieg. Okay, everyone, let's go rob Stieg's house because he's got some more of that. But make sure it's the second edition, everyone, because there's different versions, obviously, and I don't know if it went woke the same way Dungeons and Dragons.
No, the comics have gone a bit woke, and the art style now is complete shit.
Okay.
And they have what's her name? Gail Simone is writing Red Sonja.
Okay. Well, I think. Well, forget it. Yeah. In general, most comics that are written nowadays are not worth the paper they're printed on. But
yeah, I mean, if you compare it to the, the Savage Sword of Conan, right? It's not even a contest.
No,
the artwork in those it's amazing. You get a top. Every comic is a top of the line product, because the covers are insane.
Yeah,
they're actual paintings.
I was about ready to say, and I showed some of them, but it doesn't do it justice. I actually found my first Savage Sword of Conan because Stieg told me if I'm at like a thrift store, secondhand bookstore, to see if they had it, and sure enough, they did. I was able to get one for about $10, and I was floored about how darn good that art is. I mean, it is amazing, and it's not even in color, and almost it's black and white gives it a
Yeah.
certain charm.
Yeah, a black and white, in my opinion, adds to Conan
Mm-hmm.
because it makes it feel kind of ancient, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And when you add colors, sometimes you will lose a little bit of detail, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with the black and white, you know what that they did in Savage Sword of Conan, it's yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just fantastic.
Yeah. So if you want to have good comics of Conan, find Savage Sword of Conan. If you're lucky enough to find one at half price books, like I did, and I've just got a whole bunch that are coming in now from eBay. I think I got like 10 of them for $10 and free shipping. So find the Savage Sword of Conan. Cybot, he plays Conan D&D every week. He says, Steve, just like us, and he said it did not go woke. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, the old Conan did not go woke, but I'm not sure about the new comics though.
They did. I've seen it.
Okay, yeah,
It's
I haven't been buying the new stuff because yeah.
well,
I'm
I did not
sticking with
buy
the old.
it. It's in my. Oh, by the way, just a side note. Never ever ever read a book that is outside your normal niche on your Kindle because your Kindle recommendations will be polluted with it. But Conan, so there's it's not pirating, but the website has a lot of stuff that you can read for free. And are you still there, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, Teresa ran away. Well, anyway, so there's a website, and it's not a pirating website, but you can read it for free. And so I was like, oh well, I've just read Conan the Magnificent. I want to read Conan the Triumphant next. Let's see
The
where.
audiobooks are free on YouTube.
Yes, they are. But so I think I got like 4 pages in, and they made Conan cry.
In one of the new ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, you never make Conan cry.
Nope. But it was like, and someone argued if they're like, it's not crying, and I'm like, it literally says a single tear slid down his cheek, and they're like, yeah, that's not. I'm like, no, that's he may as well be weeping.
Yeah, Conan, when he lost Bellet, he didn't cry then either.
No,
he got
he screamed
pissed.
he screamed in rage.
Yep.
And slaughtered a bunch of things.
Yeah,
but,
he went after the giant winged gorilla that had killed her.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I was blown away. I wasn't sure. I thought for a second I was reading like a parody comic. But no, it literally said that a single tear slid down his cheek. And I was like, why? Just why? And then he was essentially, for the rest of the comic, he wasn't even really there. Yeah. And I was so confused. I was like, this makes no sense. Like, it's not like we haven't had strong female warrior characters throughout the throughout pop culture and stuff like that. I mean, oh gosh. So everybody thinks that I'm kidding when I say this, but there were female Power Rangers, guys. Like, if the world had really been so bad, especially in the 90s, like everybody tries to say it was, there would have not been female Power Rangers. Well, they were pink and yellow. Okay.
Xena, the warrior princess, is from the 90s.
Yeah, Xena's from the 90s. I mean, you've got God in heaven. You got Wonder Woman. Granted, she's... Huh? Teresa? Yes, we can hear you. Or I heard you for a
Oh,
second.
thank God. They behaved themselves. My internet went out.
Oh. No, we did. I was talking about I went and looked at a modern Conan comic, and they made Conan cry. And then he was essentially not there for the rest of the comic.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah, you see, there you go. Okay, that's what folks are saying. Yeah. And as Nick Cave said, so many modern stories with the male lead, Conan has been sidelined in his own IP. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Miss Martin has overgrown her vines, and he's gone, good night. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it's night in Australia. Okay, yeah. Gosh, I hate my life. My internet only goes out when I am actually hosting a live stream, I found. All other times, my internet is perfectly fine. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, because I know the second movie is not a favorite of people. Who was the female lead in Conan the Destroyer?
Grace Jones, I guess.
Yes, I think that's
she played Zula.
There it is. Yes, that's the character who was very much.
Zula is male in the comics. He was actually created by Marvel Comics, so they gender swapped Zula. But that would mean Grace Jones is the first black female in a Marvel movie, isn't it?
There you go.
Oops, it's already done.
But yeah, I'm just like, I'm really confused because even like, I just, the 90s had so many, and the early 2000s and the 80s and the 60s and the 70s, like you had strong female leads, you had strong female characters, you had female warriors, but they were balanced. Like, they weren't expert archers and expert swordswomen and expert axe women. You know what I mean? Those are very different weapons. The use of that, like, everybody's like, oh, if you can swing a sword, you can swing an axe. Okay, but you're probably going to take your leg off if you treat an axe like a sword, because first of all, their balance is completely different, and how you utilize them on the battlefield is also completely different. But it's just the confusion for me comes in where people are like, oh, it's so great to finally see strong women. And I'm like, okay, well, here's, this, and this. And they're like, well, that's old. And I'm like, I thought the whole argument was that there was nothing when it was old. I thought that was the whole point.
They just shift the goalpost.
Right? I'm just, it makes absolutely no sense to me. And the fact that they're willing to sacrifice continuity and common sense and good storytelling so that a woman can falsely look strong. Because here is the thing. You do not, taking a weak character and then putting her in a position where she needs to be strong, and so you just make every other character weaker than her, and all these other characters are just talking about how awesome she is and how great she is, does not make her great or strong. It makes her boring, one-dimensional, and you're telling, not showing. And she can't kick it with the guys. Like, if the guys, I'll say it this way. When I would spar with the guys, they would always hold back because literally a single punch from them could probably have knocked me out cold, if we're being 100% honest. But I still needed to learn how to, like, defend myself and take a hit and stuff like that. So we would spar, but it would never be anything like what it would be between two of them. It was so much more brutal and violent when they would spar. And you could tell that they dropped to my skill level to help me improve. But then if I ever thought that I was getting too big for my britches, they would lay me out, essentially. I won a few fights, but not very many. And it was usually because I kicked him in the groin. I'm just saying, it works. Yeah. Like, that's just, it is just a fact. It is a simple, bye, Teresa. It's just a simple fact. And so when you are taking these women and making them strong by making the men weak, you're not doing anybody any favors.
No, they're basically putting all the male characters down to level 1,
Yep.
and the woman is at level 7 just to look way more competent. Well, there's a thing in writing that I saw. Terry Brooks said. He said the strength of the protagonist is measured by the threat posed by the antagonist.
Yep.
So if the antagonist is no threat, then yeah, there's no risk.
Yep. There's no stakes. There's no nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like I think the really depressing part is we're missing out on such great storytelling. For sake of like, there's so many incredible female perspective stories you could tell, and we're not getting any of those because all we're getting is a man in like a man's story being played out by a woman, and it feels like when you watch it on screen, it feels unnatural. It feels forced.
No wonder people are gender confused, right?
Right? Well, and then people are like, well, what about the Valkyries? And I'm like, okay, but even I was like, which Valkyrie? Are we talking actual Norse mythology, or are you talking what the bastardization that Disney Marvel did? Because
the
Disney
Valkyries in Norse mythology just basically picked up fallen warriors and carried them to Valhalla.
Yep.
They didn't like join the battles.
No.
You know?
I mean, could they fight? Yes, of course they could fight. But like that was not their purpose. Their purpose was to honor fallen warriors and bring them to the halls of Valhalla. But then you've got Disney Marvel over here making it seem like Valkyrie is, first of all, they're calling her king. They're calling her king, and she has to go find her queen for New Asgard.
Yeah, she hasn't even earned it. She just got it.
Yeah. Thor had to abdicate again, like it was given to her. She didn't fight for it. She didn't defeat Thor. She didn't kill Thor. He gave it to her.
And she had only been in one movie, and that's the movie where it was given to her too.
Yeah. And
one movie. That's all it took.
I'm just sitting here I'm like, what is happening right now? First of all, that is fundamentally not how Valkyries function. I was like, second of all, a true Valkyrie would never consider taking the throne of Asgard.
Nope.
Like, that's not their purpose. This is a line, or this is a literary idea that has gotten incredibly twisted. And it is that there are those who were born to rule and those who were born to serve. And people automatically take that to mean, okay, so king and peasants, or queen and peasants, or, usually it's a brutal king. They're like automatically like, okay, so then the ruler is a brutal king and he enslaves all of his people and he like grapes the women, right? And that is demonstratively false. The idea behind those, what it was actually at one point was, there are those who are meant and made to lead, and those who are meant and made to serve. You can lead through service. That is a thing. It's a whole there's a whole religion built around. If you have a good ruler, if you have a good king, he's going to need people he can trust to make sure that the system stays intact, that his rule isn't constantly threatened by people who want to overthrow the kingdom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you have certain people who maybe they are capable of ruling. Maybe they are considerate, kind, compassionate, intelligent. They're ruthless when they need to be. But there's this thing called loyalty. There's this thing called humility.
It's basically an oath, because they swear an oath.
You swear
and that oath used to mean something.
Because
if you were an oath breaker back in the day, that was not good.
No, and so but people nowadays, we've become so self-centered that when we hear there were those who were born to lead and those who were born to follow, you automatically assume it's like, oh, king and peasants type situation, and the king is automatically going to be terrible to the peasants. It's so disingenuous, and it robs so many of such good storytelling. Like, Conan was not born to rule. He was literally born in the middle of a battle. Like, he was born in blood.
Yeah, and he basically became a warrior, low level warrior to begin with.
Yeah.
And then he started becoming a thief.
Yep.
Because he left Samaria to be an adventurer. So a lot of the Robert E. Howard stories has Conan as a young thief. You know, the Tower of the Elephant, I believe, one of the famous ones.
Mm-hmm.
He's a thief in that one. Afterwards, he became a mercenary and a pirate, and eventually became a general too. And that's where he got the throne.
Yep.
Throne of Aquilonia. And,
but yeah, that crap wasn't given to him. He fought. There were many times
he killed killed the former king to get it.
Yeah, he didn't. It wasn't just handed to him.
No,
he clawed and fought and brutalized and was It's not like he got out of this scot-free. Like,
no.
He was, gosh, the amount of. I can't even necessarily say just injuries, because it's not, they didn't necessarily scar, but just the amount of injuries that he sustained you're just like, my God, this man just won't die. Like,
when Conan became king, he actually choked the previous king to death in his own throne room.
Yep.
Okay, I'm back, I think.
At the end. There we go.
I hate the world. I really do. Well, we've been having storms and stuff, but I'm assuming that you all were just saying really, really awesome stuff.
We were basically talking about how when you compare modern day stories to stuff like Conan, like how Valkyrie is in Disney Marvel, is she got handed the throne from Thor, and she's being referred to as King Valkyrie. And they have fundamentally ruined what Valkyries actually are, both in the Marvel universe as well as Norse mythology. And then we talked about how Conan, nothing got handed to him. He wasn't born to rule. He was, my God, in all honesty, he should have been dead as an infant.
Yeah.
It's a miracle he survived that.
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with his origin stories, but it sounds great. I mean, I'm still learning so much. What is Cybot? Oh, fudge. There it goes. Cybot says, yeah, the crown sits very heavily on Conan, hence the iconic image of him on the throne looking down with the world, done with the world. Oh. Well, there you are. Yeah, no, those are all good points. Yeah. And I had some of the art up there. I don't know if you had a chance to talk about that, the Savage Stone of Conan art, which is pretty daggone amazing.
Yeah, you just went away, so we didn't get to.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me share it again. I am so well. Never mind the kind of words that were coming around.
It's Fig Tuesday. Be nice.
I know it's Fig Tuesday. I got to be nice. I don't want to be cursed like the fig tree. Here we are. Speaking of the good kind of art and the good kind of stuff, and I'm trying to make it bigger. This is as big as right now as they're allowing me. Well, fudge. There we go. Look at this art. This is from the Savage Sword of Conan. It's amazing.
Yeah, look at the details.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get in even closer.
The shading, the brutality. Like, I don't need that blood to be red to know that it's brutal and gory. You know what I mean? Like, that's how well drawn this is. And he just snaps that thing off and shoves it in the dude's chest. Like, I love it.
And it goes chunk.
I saw in one comic he's facing off with three people. One of them is holding he has a two-handed grip on his sword, right? And Conan grabs one guy who looks marvelously retarded, swings him over his shoulder by the leg, and slams him down onto the blade of the opponent, impaling him on the other guy's sword. It's awesome. It's full of shit like that.
There's no more impaling. Even Vlad the Impaler, they made a I forget I forget the name, but it was Dracula Untold. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Historically rife with inaccuracies and overall like just yeah. But like that show, you literally got to see people impaled on posts, and I was like, I don't remember the last time I saw this. I think it was Solomon Kane in 2011. Like impaling is not something that you see very frequently. And
a shocking lack of impaling nowadays.
I'm just saying,
No,
like
no, I love it.
It gets your point across.
Yeah.
And it's not done. Like every time we see it now, it's like it's the same scene of like a battlefield with dudes laying down on the ground. And it's like, and you see blood on a rock, and you're like, man, I wasn't there, but I've read history books. I know for a fact that that's not what like they all just kind of look like they're sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I know for a fact that is not how that went, because corpses got brutalized back in the day. They'd behead you and stick you on a pike and lift it up for the world to see and brag about it. Like,
and everyone else got to go and like raid your body, like go rifle through your pockets, take your clothes. The peasants would be like, hey, there's some boots here. Let's get it.
Yep.
Yeah. Grandpa, tell me about the good old days. I'll tell you what. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just, it's bizarre to me. Like the problem with this is we now have sympathetic villains, which is a terrible, terrible trope that needs to die an impaling death. And there's less brutality. Like nowadays, you're just like, what did this person do that is actually so terrible? Well, they invented a virus that could wipe out anyone in humanity who they map its genetic code to. Okay, yeah, that sounds pretty bad. Are they going to do that? Well, no. Okay, so then I fundamentally misunderstand why they're such a threat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I understand. Well, again, nothing. There's a reason why I keep going backwards with my entertainment. To me, there's a certain choice. I can sit around and be miserable, and I will be miserable. And at the end of the day, or you can go back where things were good. And this is just a perfect example. I know we have to wind it down because folks are going to work and stuff. So, Lady Gravemaster, I didn't know if you wanted to say some conclusions or any last words you wanted to say about Robert E. Howard's Conan.
I recommend them highly. Robert E. Howard and Robert Jordan's Conan are fantastic. Like Stig has mentioned, you can get audiobooks on YouTube for free, but I believe those are just Robert Jordan's. I don't think they're Robert E. Howard's.
Oh, there's Robert E. Howard ones too.
Okay, there you go. So
there's piles on YouTube.
There you go. So there's a lot out there to love. There's a lot of good stuff that you can partake in, and it's like Miss Martin said, choose your escapism, choose what it is you want to read. Like, don't, honestly, as I found out last week, if anybody watched my stream on Saturday, you cannot trust your recommendations anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you certainly can't trust, the top 10 best-selling books on Amazon anymore.
No, it's all manipulated. I spoke about this when people were talking about the Rings of Power, and they're like, you've got to give it a chance. And I ranted and raved on your channel. No, I don't. Mm-hmm. I don't have to do anything. So there. You don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just love everything I'm learning about Robert E. Howard and his works. So I'm just a little baby in it, but it's pretty amazing, and it's pretty intense.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like Stieg said, I think before we went live, sometimes one standalone good novel is all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, one thing to be said about Conan, though, it's still ongoing. It's been ongoing since the 30s. Mm-hmm. So that's a heck of a longevity for a franchise.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's probably, it's probably probably the longest lasting franchise, I guess.
Yeah, so that's
Could be,
continued. Yeah.
but yeah, like Teresa said though, if you're fed up with the woke stuff and all that, remember we had decades and decades without woke stuff, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still there. The Conan books being some of it. You have other things like the Dragonlands, books. They're kind of similar, but not similar in tone. It's just fun adventures, and if the future looks shit, then look back
Yep.
to the past, right? Because you don't have to read or watch something simply because it's new.
Nope.
You're the only one forcing yourself to do that. But I've been going back and reading older stuff, and I'm having a blast with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's stuff you haven't read or watched, then it counts as new content, doesn't it?
Yes.
So there's loads of new content out there. It's there, but it's just not produced in 2022. You know, and yeah, like I said, sometimes it's good to just read one standalone story. Um, and Conan certainly has that because it's like Bond and Indiana Jones. You get one story and then you're done. Sometimes they're linked together a little bit, but uh, for the most part, they stand on their own feet.
Yeah. Precisely. Amen and hallelujah. And there's just nothing more to say about that. Um, and I'm sure if there are Robert E. Howards out there, there's more.
Yeah, you have Michael Moorcock as well, who is still alive, and he wrote the Elric of Melny Bonet books, which have been turned into comics, and I think there's going to be a video game too, actually,
Mhm.
quite soon. It's about an albino with I think it's a soul drinking sword he has, and yeah, Moorcock is doing a brand new novel.
Yeah. Well, there we are. Uh, it's not fantasy, but another thing that will never let you down is go to some of those old mysteries like Agatha Christie's. Mhm.
Yeah,
Same thing. They stand alone and you'll be entertained. They're about 100, 200 pages.
yeah, and
And
old westerns.
old westerns. Mm-hmm.
I saw a very famous fantasy writer speak highly about Louis L'Amour,
Yes.
saying he was one of the best writers that, that's out there. He's an excellent writer because um, you get everything that's advertised. You get a Western story in one book. It's well written. It has a great plot, great characters. That's it.
Yeah.
No
The end.
allegory, no deeper meanings, or anything like that. It's just a story, well
Yeah.
written story, and stuff like that is very often overlooked. Even the old Biggles stories, you know, they're
Mm-hmm.
great fun as well. World War One, airplane stuff. It's fun.
All right.
Those are more written for a younger audience, though. But still,
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Go for it. So yeah, so find what you love and maybe, look up some of those weird tales and all of those. They're fun and they're wild and eBay has them, but if you do see any of those in a thrift store, an antique place, secondhand books, buy them, snatch them up because they're good, and I think sometimes people don't know what they have when they have them, and right now they're starting to be very valuable as well. But they're valuable in gold because you cannot put a price on good entertainment. You just can't.
no,
No.
because good entertainment is an experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that that's the thing that we were getting at a little bit with Lady Greymaster is what we were talking about before she had to leave us is it's your experience, you as a consumer. When that one dude from Gladiators, like, are you not entertained? Part of me says, if I'm not, that's not my problem. It's your problem, though. That's an entirely different context. Or sometimes you're like, I don't owe my fans anything. Yes, you do, maybe, but I can tell you something that's absolutely for certain. I don't owe you anything.
No,
I'm the audience.
if a person is selling you entertainment and you're not entertained by it, then you haven't gotten what you paid for
Exactly, and
within reason.
yeah,
Because there's also, the product could be great technically, but it's not your cup of tea.
yeah,
That's different. But if it's lackluster and stuff like you see with the Disney Star Wars, then definitely you're not getting what you pay for.
yeah. And if it's entertainment, it's entertainment. If it's not entertaining me, screw you. And worse, if it's not only not entertaining me, but if it's making me sad and depressed because of how horrible it is or how you're crapping all over these beautiful, beautiful characters and stories, well, I even more so don't have to do them. Though Cybot makes a good point tag teaming on this. He says you owe them quality if you want them to stick around. Yes. Yeah. The writer to the audience, yes, has that. You want them to stick around. There's an
it's basically if the writer can't be bothered to do any effort creating the stuff, why should the reader make any effort reading them?
Precisely. And the same thing goes with movie, and same thing goes with television. Ancient One says, furthermore, said film is already going to make it big in the box office. We're talking about a movie based on a video game, which is something that's never happened before. Okay, yeah, possibly, but we're living in a different time where the people that entertain us, and they've started acting like they're our God. And not even God is that demanding as they are, or as condescending, depending
or
on what.
As narcissistic. That's what it is, though.
That's
it's
it.
Narcissism.
Yeah, we are providing you, and you must love us. And if you don't like it, well, there's something wrong with you. It's like, well, no, maybe there's something wrong with you. Screw off. But thank you, Steek, for introducing me to Conan. I've just really enjoyed them, and I've really enjoyed this hour when my internet wasn't messing up and kicking me off, and talking with you and Lady Gravemaster about this. Steek, was there any conclusion you wanted to say about Robert E. Howard or his work?
No, I just feel he's greatly overlooked, and he, in my opinion, deserves a spot among the greatest American writers, because he actually is a great writer as well.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like Conan, the guy's writing skills are amazing.
Unbelievable. He was also a poet as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's poetry in the Conan books here and there. Usually, a standalone page. You have a poem or something. But yeah, Conan is almost 100 years old now. As a franchise, and he's clearly here to stay, and there's a good reason for it, because it's entertaining.
Yep.
And the other people that have written Conan books, like Robert Jordan, who wrote The Wheel of Time, he nails it when he's writing Conan. It's fantastic. Yeah. So Conan has been in good hands up until now.
Yeah. And so as it gets crap, we don't have to watch the crap, right? Read the crap.
Yeah, it's it's not in as much trouble though as Star Trek and Star Wars or anything, but Netflix has the rights now, right? To both Conan, Solomon Kane, and Red Sonja. Yeah. The first thing they did was cast a lady who doesn't have red hair. They cast a Latina to play Red Sonja. She's left the production now, though.
Yeah.
But a warning sign, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Red Sonja, who's not red Sonia. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
The only thing they needed to get right was red hair.
red hair. Yeah, the
Yeah.
rest could suck. Exactly, and very, very well said about all of that. And yeah, when you put it in perspective, because I'd said that he started writing it, what, 1932? That was when he started conceiving of Conan, and yeah, and so it's going to be the 100-year anniversary in 10 years, and it's just, I'll say it one more time, how such a tragedy that he died so young, because he could have easily outwritten Tolkien if he'd have stayed alive. I honestly do believe that. His output was unbelievable in his originality and his ability to come up with things that were genuinely entertaining. And if he'd have lived to write well into his 60s, 70s, or 80s, can you imagine what he would have given us?
Yeah, and he got a biopic more than 20 years before Tolkien did,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of almost strange, isn't it? But
Yeah, the whole wide
he
world.
did.
Yeah,
With Vincent D'Onofrio. Is that how you pronounce it?
perhaps. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he nailed it.
Probably. Yeah.
He did a great job in that movie.
Yeah, he was amazing. And they did a really good job of maybe showing what led up to his taking of his own life. And Renee Zellweger was really good too as a school teacher who they were romantically involved, but they just, for several reasons, it just weren't able to, he had issues and she had issues as well. But yeah, may he rest in peace. That's just all I'll say about that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Stigo. Where are you going to be this week?
Well, if I'm awake, I'll be on Morris channel on Wednesday for the Cringe Factory, and Saturday on your channel.
Yep.
For Silmarillion.
Yep, and I'll be the same. Sometimes I fill
Chapter
in.
4, 5, and 6 of the Silmarillion, right?
That is correct. Yeah, and they're very short chapters this time around, but I'm sure that Tolkien will keep us very well occupied sorting it all out. With his 10 names for one character. But yes, we do enjoy it. And thank you to everyone that showed up this morning on the Fantasy Tavern on a very special early morning. It being Fig Tuesday, there's some stuff going on tonight. So we decided, well, let's just make it 12 hours earlier. Why not? So thank you for coming bright and early. So good to see everyone. Again, the chat, top notch. Thank you for all your knowledge, everything you've been sharing with us. I do appreciate you. So if you're new here, please like, share, and subscribe. I talk here. I always say I talk also about what really ticks me off, but mostly I talk about what makes me happy, and hopefully makes you happy too. Thank you, all of my mods, and well, let's just close this off with have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, and be certain if you're going into battle, have bikini chainmail.
Yeah, absolutely.